Hey, greetings everyone. Dan here. I'm here with another tip of the week. I was doing a critique of someone's painting the other day, and I came up with this idea, and I just really liked the way it sounded, so that's why I'm going to pass it on as a tip. What I want you to do is, I mean, you don't have to do this, of course, but I think this is a good way to think about your paintings. You have two options. You can either paint a painting and copy the setup or the figure or the landscape or whatever you're doing exactly as you see it, or copy the photograph exactly as you see it, or you can try to translate it or transcribe it into what would be the best possible painting that you can imagine, or the closest thing to whatever your concept is. Like, I know from still life painting, it's like impossible to set up a still life and have everything exactly the way you'd want it, like the lighting on each element exactly the way you want it, and the lighting in the background, and so on and so forth. So, and how do you manage that, right? So otherwise, what's going to be happen is you're going to end up being like a slave to copying what's up there. But instead, how would we translate it to create the most beautiful painting possible? And here's where I think, if you think like a conductor, and a little bit more like a conductor and a little bit less like a camera, I think what you will find is you'll have a much easier time. So here, let me explain. Let's pretend here that these guys are the violin section. The bass is the French horns. These are the oboes. Those are the flutes. These are the drums, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Now every one of the people playing those instruments wants to hear their instrument play the loudest because they love their instrument, right? I know nothing about music, so please bear with me on this whole thing. Anyway, but the conductor, he can hear the beauty in all, and he can hear the beauty in the violins and in the French horns, and he is able to decide what will create the absolute most beautiful piece of music by determining how loud each of these plays and how long each of them plays, and so on and so forth, right? So in a painting, you have the same thing. You could paint these with a lot of chroma or a little bit of chroma. You can see I chose to paint with a lot of chroma, a lot of color intensity. These I subdued, right? Because I want these to become our star. I want this to be our star area. So as the conductor, I subdued everything else. I don't even think these guys were really that much in shadow when I actually had the original setup. But I wanted there to be a relationship between this piece of music and this piece of music and this piece of music and all that. And I wanted to do it in such a way that I'd create the most beautiful painting. So what I had to do is subdue the background here almost to complete silence, and subdue this here. Bring a little bit of volume into the tabletop, but really have these guys played loudly so that our attention comes to this part of the painting. All right? Just a way of thinking about it that maybe you haven't thought about it before, because a lot of times when we paint, we just start painting and we'll paint the best flower that we can, and then we'll move to the next thing and paint the best leaf that we can, and then the next flower that we just can, and then the best cow lily that we can, and so on and so forth. Instead of maybe looking at what is the overall picture of this whole painting, like, see how bright this is? I want the attention right here. So this isn't painted as bright, and it very well may have been equally as bright in this setup, but I want this to be the star of this painting or of this piece of music. So the rest of it is subdued, and these things are brought up to a higher degree of finish in terms of resolve, and in terms of maybe color, in color intensity and light intensity. And it's just a good way to think about it. You think about subduing the areas you don't want to play loudly, and you bring up the areas you want to play as loudly as you want in order to convey the idea of the whole picture. All right. Well, that's Dan with another tip of the week. Thanks for watching. And if you want information on classes, go to oilpaintingworkshop.com and check them out. Other than that, have a fantastic day and paint happy. You take care.